of all to Halliburton for hosting, and thank you to Project Interspace, Taylor and Jamie for putting this together. This next panel is going to be titled Geothermal Strategies for Service Companies, and the panel consists of these five experts, leaders in the drilling services and equipment manufacturing sectors. These panelists include David Reid with NOV, Ajit Menon with Baker Hughes, Joey Husband with Nabors, Matt Foder with Weatherford, and Rami Yassine with Halliburton. My name's Thad Dunham. I'm a Senior Director, Government and Industry Affairs with IEDC, otherwise known as the International Association of Drilling Contractors. We have a lot to cover, so I'm going to jump right into it. At the end, we're going to give about 10 minutes for questions. So during this presentation, be thinking of some questions, because these are the guys right here as far as geothermal in the drilling services sector goes. So we'll start out, let's just go down the line here and have each panelist introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about you and your company, and give the audience kind of a high level overview of your company's, what you're doing and your strategy as far as geothermal goes. So we'll start with Mr. Reid.
On button, there you go. Good morning, everyone. I'm David Reid. I'm the CTO and CMO for NOV. Our journey, we probably 15 years ago started kind of thinking about geothermal, and we kind of tried to move into the space a bit. And they didn't like spending money, thought maybe we shouldn't be in this space. And then maybe 8 years ago now, we kind of had a thought about, is there something we can do with lower temperatures in shales, and can we convert that to energy? And it started us down an R&D road, and that actually probably pushed us into renewables. It started with my boss is a geologist, and this is the one thing he got really excited about and was like, for sure, this has to be possible. So his level of excitement was good, which turned into a level of investment, which was great. And so for us, as that movement has come along, really, I mean, we're a lot of different business units and that work quite independently, and when they need to work together, they work together. And so geothermal kind of has had the benefit of lots of different groups doing different things that kind of work together when they need to. And so one by one, each kind of had their own journey into this. But probably our fiberglass business has done really well in this space, particularly in liners, very early working with our tuboscope business in the coatings world and liner applications. So that's been a good space for us. But probably the big breakthroughs have been in focus. And I think that's going to be the same for everybody. When you realize what we did in shale and say, is that energy and is that focus possible, to see if we can push this thing to larger scale. And so drill bits obviously was a big breakthrough for us. I assume everyone in the room knows that. But a bit of focus and design that also helped with particle drilling. They really got benefit out of focus on drill bit design. So in the better ROP, and of course working with some of the greats in the industry on mechanical specific energy and work. I mean, there's been some really good breakthrough in that space for us. But a lot of our businesses play in this space, and probably what's been more interesting, we tried working on can we get smarter devices to work at higher temperatures, and that has changed to can we get lower temperatures in the well. And so a ton of work now going on. Can we insulate cold fluids, cool fluids, and then pull them in? And so really nice stuff happening in that space. So all of that to say we've been pushing into this space, but we're very aware when you're talking hard rock and you're talking high temp, there's plenty of applications around the world that actually need that as well. And so from a business standpoint, it makes a lot of sense for us. So that's my story.
Can I go? Hear me? Hi, so my name is Matt Foder. I'm the Senior Vice President of Growth Projects for Weatherford. So
I'm a member of the executive leadership team, report to the CEO. So I joined Weatherford only 2 years ago, really to create this new energy business for our company. So Weatherford's been an global energy service company for decades. You know us of different forms around the world, 18,000 employees. We operate in about 75 different countries, focused on the drilling and evaluation phase, well construction and completions, production and interventions, supporting the well throughout its life cycle. But really, we see it as a great opportunity to expand our business by deploying the skills and technologies, the experience, the tools that we have that have been developed for years and years in oil and gas applications that are pretty darn similar to some of these new energy spaces. So geothermal being primarily the focus for us. We've been in it for over 3 decades. That's some of the hottest temperature tools in the market, and I think a lot of experience that we can bring to bear to help support this industry, but also carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration. And we see P&A as well as an important part of the transition strategy for the companies, because finishing responsibly, ensuring that we protect the groundwater and mitigate methane emissions from old abandoned wells is critically important to protecting the environment. Methane's an incredibly potent greenhouse gas. So our vision has been aligned with our strategy that, hey, we want to be a responsible supplier in providing clean, safe, reliable, and sustainable energy for the planet. And we have the skills and capabilities to go do that in other markets. And this is really consistent with our strategy. So we made our net zero commitment. We published our ESG report. We're generating lower air, waste, and water consumption over the last 2 years that we've been reporting 25 to 40%. So it's say-do, internally focused, but it's an externally focused market where we see an opportunity to help further the advancement of these technologies to make cheaper, cleaner, sustainable energy available for everyone. So I'll leave it there.
Great. Good morning. Can you all hear me? So again, my name is Joey Husband. I'm with Nabors Energy Transition Ventures. And a little bit of background, I spent 20 years with a big service company and worked all over the place, did a lot of different roles, mainly in upstream well construction, project management. And the next half of my career I spent in the contract drilling business, most of that time with Nabors. Had some great fun assignments drilling, and I was fortunate enough to be in the unconventional development phase here in the US, which was not only fun, but it was a perfect environment for automating rigs and the steps to drill these wells. The well types were the same well over and over again, so you could really code those steps, understand exactly what the benchmark times were to conduct each step of drilling the well, and then have a continuous improvement plan based on those measurements and to drive the costs out of the wells. And I would say in North America, the rigs represent about 50% of the costs of the well, just the control of the rig crews, the rig itself, and how you're conducting that. So, in the process, we knew that we could take further costs out of the system by integrating certain services. So we had a directional drilling company. We had a managed pressure drilling technology we're trying to develop. We acquired a big casing running company and then had some software that we were able to integrate all that into the drilling rig to be able to more efficiently have workflows at the well site and to reduce labor costs, reduce CapEx, and leverage the rig as a platform really for equipment, for people to more efficiently conduct the same operation and have really transparent KPIs. So that was really successful. And that's Nabors Drilling Solutions. That's the second segment. We've always had an equipment manufacturing company called CanRig, where we build drilling equipment like drawworks and powerhouses. And so we have a pretty big global supply chain, which was helpful, and we're able to build equipment in a fleet of automated rigs that were basically the same type of rig. And then finally, because we had experience lowering costs, so we knew that geothermal costs were a big issue on the well side and also on the surface plant side. we thought geothermal was a natural place to enter into that market before we even had Nabors Energy Transition part of the company. We had some solutions on the engine control side to try to reduce fuel, to try to better manage engines, so we're reducing emissions. We had some fuel additives. We created a materials group that were experimenting with different materials, and then we decided we were going to get into the geothermal business to leverage all the things we learned in unconventional drilling in North America to reduce the cost of the wells in geothermal. So that's how we got into it. But the strategy really, so we formed Nabors Energy Transition Corporation, and our strategy was to actually make small investments in across a broad range of renewable energy generation, power storage, and also monitoring systems, and to select those companies where we thought we could bring value to accelerate their technical roadmap. So whether it was with certain engineering or certain IP that we had, or whether it was just legal infrastructure or capital market relationships or customer relationships, you know, we thought with each of these companies we invested in, we could bring some value. So we formed a new energy ecosystem, so to speak, and have been in the process of really bringing those teams together as one team. And all of our partners know each other. And the strategy was to not only try to use that new segment of the company to decarbonize our current operations. So we're also very interested in continuing the growth in oil and gas and being successful in that business for as long as we can see. And we want to decarbonize it and make it better and better and better. We've been doing this for the last 10 years. We didn't know we were doing it. We're just a bunch of roughnecks drilling wells, but we were reducing the well times from, say, 25 days down to less than 10 days now in certain fields. And so in a way, we were just, you know, per unit, per footage drilled or per barrel produced, we were reducing the emissions, the amount of travel, personnel, gravel, caliche, you know, all the things that go into well construction. So, but our vision is also to generate new technologies, new generation in the areas of renewable energy, power storage, and emissions monitoring. And really, we think, though, that all of those businesses have to be reliable. We want things to always be on. We're going to treat it just like a drilling operation. We want it to always work. We want it to be affordable, not only because we want to pay back and return on any investment anybody makes in it, but we want it to be accepted in the market and have off-takers and lots of market. And then, you know, finally, we want to be profitable at it. So we're looking at this as a business, and our vision is that in the next 5 years, 25% of our income will come from our energy transition group. So that's kind of our strategy.
Got a whole bunch of questions, guys. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Ajit Menon. So I look after the geothermal segment for Baker Hughes. Now that covers what we do traditionally on the subsurface, reservoir characterization, you know, well construction and production, but also what we do on surface. We're an OEM for turbines, turbo machinery, and other rotating equipment. And if you look at, you know, like our experience in, or what we've been doing in geothermal, on the subsurface side, we've been involved in geothermal for over 40 years. And on the surface side, actually, the first geothermal power plant in the world in Larderello in Italy actually has our turbines. And that, I think, was 1913, right? But it's fair to say, you know, Baker Hughes of today is a culmination of two companies, Legacy Baker Hughes and G Oil and Gas, which happened in 2017. And since then, you know, we really look to see how we can integrate those parts of the value chain to bring more value and reduce uncertainty to our customers. So as far as, you know, like new energies or energy transition, our strategy is to look at areas as an energy technology company that we can actually make a difference, that we can actually contribute. And geothermal is clearly for us one of those areas. And really, when we look at it, it's how can we, through connecting that value chain better from the subsurface all the way to surface, reduce cost, risk, and uncertainty so we can help grow this geothermal market for all of us, right? Because I think, in order to take geothermal to the next level, that's what we need to do. The premise is amazing, but how can we do this, economically, where it gets take up from both the investment community and consumers? So that's our focus. And we feel there's a real opportunity here in being able to better connect how we deliver the reservoir through the well field, through our surface infrastructure, and optimizing that together. Because you see a lot of challenges in the world today with oversized plants, with geothermal developments that are not being optimized, and even simple things like process and project execution, not even getting to technology. So that's what our strategy is, and happy to join this conversation. Thanks.
I'll make it quick to give some opportunity for questions and answers. So my name is Rami, Yassine. I look after the drilling and evaluation division within Halliburton. I'm part of the Halliburton Executive Committee, reporting to the CEO as well. And what I wanted to mainly tell you is thank you for joining us. On behalf of Halliburton, I appreciate the audience coming and joining us over here. A brief about Halliburton. It's one of the largest oil and gas service companies. We've been in business for over 100 years now. And actually, we've been in the business of geothermal since 1950. And what I found also interesting is a lot of the fields that we started working in back then, there's still a lot of them that are still operational until today, which is an indication of how geothermal has a long span. During my career, I worked either in a technical or kind of technical or managerial role within the different product service lines. And I looked back at 6 of the ones that I worked in, and actually each one of them had application within geothermal. You look at our fracking business, our microseismic business, or fiber optics, our fiber optic mapping, the drill bits that were mentioned earlier, even ESPs. And you think about it, even on the intervention side, the long-term maintenance of some of these wells and fields, doing different types of interventions, cleaning out scales, has a direct correlation with what kind of every service line does within our company and probably our industry. I just want to maybe mention one part as our core kind of strategy. There's different challenges across different segments, different areas around the world, different kind of markets that we address, geothermal being one of them. But at our core, we believe a collaborative and engineered solution is really what allows our customers to maximize their asset values. And that's really how we view ourselves as Halliburton at our core. So hopefully we'll be able to share more during the question and answers. That's all I had.
All right. Thank you all. Like I said, these are the guys in the field of geothermal for our industry. So the next question, so in the past, the drilling industry or the service industry has kind of used geothermal as a hedge, you could say, when prices go down. And then when prices go back up, it gets kind of tossed out. So do you think it's changed this time around? Do you think it's actually here to stay? What's it gonna look like in the future, I guess? And it's open question.
So I'll take a shot. I mean, yeah, you're right. Historically, geothermal always kind of seemed to have a counter-cyclical effect with gas price. And when gas price went up, geothermal picked up, everyone picked up interest. And I think you could say that for energy in general, oil or gas, but I think the driver this time is a little bit different. I think companies around the world recognize the value of clean energy, and there is a value to it. Now, I hope that's true. Today you don't get more dollars per barrel for crude oil that's produced clean than it is in another fashion. But I'm confident that will happen at some point. So I think there's a new driver behind any renewable power, including geothermal, that will give it some sustainability. whether or not that business flourishes and is sustainable as a power generation market is one thing. I'm not sure about that. Maybe that's a good discussion to have, but certainly there are storage applications. There's applications to take that green power and do other things with it that may be more valuable than selling electrons. And so I think the potential sustainability of geothermal depends on all those things, whether there's really a value to that power, and also what are the other things you can do with it besides make electricity and drive more interest, drive more investment. I think that's one way to look at it.
If I can add, I think, with the clear realization that we need to move to new renewable energy, has also come a realization that baseload renewables are going to be a critical component of that. To grow renewable energy usage to any meaningful percentage. And geothermal, therefore, becomes a very attractive prospect. So I definitely think the opportunity for geothermal is here. But again, I go back to, unless we, and we have a big part to play in our industry, can address the cost, risk, and uncertainty factors, you know where the sun's going to shine, you know where the wind's going to blow. But with the investment community, knowing that you've got the resource and that you can exploit it properly are key, maybe areas we need to improve on for geothermal. So I certainly feel the opportunity is there. I think there is a lot of interest from companies like ours because we have transportable skills, and workforce and technology that can be directly applied instead of trying to invent new things, which we're also looking at. Joey brought up the direct use market, which is huge, right? 50% of our emissions come from heating and applications. There's also an energy security aspect to that, which is driving geothermal, especially in Europe. So I think the environment is better than it's ever has been for geothermal to grow, but whether it continues depends on how we address those challenges.
I'd like to add that I think something happened different in our industry. We knew we could do crazy things. We were pushing into the Arctic desert, North Sea, extreme environments, but we were throwing cash at things. So everything was these giant projects. When shale happened, something new happened in our culture that we started to understand cost. Of course, we were getting benefit out of repeatability, but also the ability to build small businesses and to see lots of small players get in and work on that cost side of the model. So I think that's the opportunity that's different, that we actually have developed a knowledge about ourselves, that we can do this. And a lot of the people in the room are pushing down that road. And I think that's really exciting. I think we always had a muscle to innovate, but we didn't have this logic about cost reduction in the core. So our land business was kind of a lot of old rigs that we just kept running as long as we could. But once we were investing, we suddenly had this idea, and this is true across all renewables that we've been investing in, is that you find that we've got to get the cost down thinking is destructive to the growth of the business, because everyone just thinks, let's spend less money, and that's all we do. So if you've got a new idea, no thanks, because that's more money. We need to spend less money. Whereas this idea of a more nimble and inventive and creative approach is opening up the door. And I think that's going to change everything for geothermal. And I really like the value that we've learned about ourselves and how we're applying ourselves into geothermal.
I would just add, I think the panelists are all fantastic comments. I agree with everything you said. I would step back a little bit, bigger picture though. The transition's here. It's here to stay. I mean, our customers, the operators, have made the commitments, right? We have companies sitting right here that are whole businesses charged not hydrocarbon-based growth initiatives. So it's real. Those of you that were at ADIPEC, this week or last week, there's a whole decarbonization section, right? We think that our industry has to be part of the solution, full stop. So that's the environment that we operate in. I think we've also realized in the last 2 years, especially with the war in Ukraine, we need more energy. We need secure energy. We need sustainable energy. And geothermal has the opportunity to serve a number of those needs. Half of the BTUs in the world, as you pointed out, Ajit, are thermal in nature. We're the only renewable technology that can provide thermal energy as well as electricity. Second bit is the world is decarbonizing. In many ways, they're doing that is by electrifying transportation, electric cars, but also the electrification of even our equipment at the rig site. Instead of using diesel-powered rigs and fracking pumps, we're using electric motors to reduce the emissions and the carbon intensivity per barrel. So there's a high demand for electricity. And again, geothermal can serve that need base load in a way that's fundamentally different from wind and solar. So I think those are the macro drivers. And then you take the technology side. And I think panelists again talked about it. It is all about cost and risk mitigation. But let's talk about EGS and AGS because they really open the door in a very different way for geothermal than has ever been available historically, right? Hydrothermal, geothermal projects, 2% of the power generated in the world, because you have to have that unique combination of geology and surface water. And then, by the way, it's got to be near a demand, a load. Well, if we do EGS, which is enabled by our advances in fracking, or directional drilling around AGS, we now know, and we've seen this again in the opening presentation, heat is pretty much everywhere we need it, especially in Texas, right here where the load centers are. So 3 to 6 kilometers down, we can hit hot enough energy to make energy valuable and available to the market, whether it's heat or power. And these are the things that our industry can bring to the table to make geothermal a much bigger part of the energy mix going forward.
I'll add maybe just a few points. And look, I agree, the world will need all sources of energy, not kind of in a transitional fashion only, but really all energy forms are needed. We also need to put things into scale at the moment and really identify what the areas that are requiring really either investment so on. You know, you look at geothermal wells right now, there's only a few hundred drilled around the world compared to the oil and gas, you know, tens of thousands, maybe 60, 70,000 around the world. Scale drives part of the investment. And I think there's primarily 3 things that we could do collectively between the different industries to really advance this and move forward. Collaboration is one of them. Now there's a lot of kind of opportunity, a large opportunity to bring together the different knowledge and expertise across different companies and truly collaborate to unlock the different potentials that were mentioned. The second is technology innovation. Look, this is not going to be solved only with kind of doing what we have done in the past. Economics have been always challenged with geothermal application, but technology innovation, even with the EGS, AGS, there needs to be additional innovation to really untap the full potential of it. And there needs to be an investment. You know, we talked about the shale transition that we've had as an industry. Look, and you know, talk about Halliburton. It was the late 40s where frac was invented within Halliburton. Really, the pickup occurred tens of years after, you know, with the collaboration that occurred between operators, service companies, technology, and innovative individuals. We could accelerate that. We know how to do it as an industry. We know how to scale a business. We know how to turn it into something meaningful and profitable. And we have a meaningful opportunity in front of us. Geothermal provides a lot of advantages that other alternative renewables do not. And it has a huge potential if we can solve for the economics around it. And that's done by the 3 areas that I mentioned, I believe.
Thank you. So let's stick with the technology theme for the next question. And I'd like to give every panelist an opportunity to talk about what is their company doing to use their previous knowledge and products to kind of bridge the gap for what is needed in the geothermal industry. So we'll just leave it open to anyone. What's new, I guess?
We think about the market in three buckets, right? There's the drilling cost and risk, which is clearly the most important part of the economics of a geothermal project. We heard, R&D for ROP, spot on, right? So the technologies that we focus on and invest in, MPD, right, to drill a optimized ROP with a wellbore that's concentric, with minimum skin effect, with a high degree of safety. These are areas where we can, again, help accelerate the deployment of this technology through appropriate use of technology to manage drilling risk. But if you get stuck, right, which also MPD, we're focused on avoiding stuck pipe, but jars and slingers, fishing tools, the things that our customers unfortunately need, right, to help make sure that these projects go forward effectively. And if you get stuck and you need to sidetrack, whip stocks, low cost, accurate, temperature resistant tools that can help, again, maximize the opportunity of the capital investment in the largest risk bucket of a geothermal project, which is drilling. But it's not just that. Digital, and we touched up on it, I think a few folks did earlier. There is a ton of technology, from fiber optics to sensors to systems, whether it's remote management of the drill site operations to the optimization of the production of geothermal heat, just like hydrocarbons. We can do this. We have the platforms. We have the same technology that we can apply to solve these kinds of problems. The third bit, and we talk about this as an old power guy myself, these plants run for decades. Calpine used to be my customer at a different company. These plants run, steam power plants run for 30 years. They like constant heat duty to the input of that turbine. Making sure that you're able to produce at the rate sustainably, efficiently, and reliably goes to lowering the levelized cost of electricity over that 30-year power plant life cycle. These are all areas where we're focused and investing to minimize risk, optimize return, and help our customers be successful in the geothermal space.
Maybe I'll add, and look, it's hard to cover every single technology that's being applied into geothermal, but I'll cover really at a high level. There's three primary kind of shifts that, just applying what already exists within the industry to geothermal is a step ahead. That is not currently fully implemented. The second is incremental improvements on technology, and third is really game-changing technologies. I'll mention a few of them. Look, we'll start with the subsurface uncertainty that was mentioned earlier. Some of the projects that we worked on in the past, there was up to a third of the wells that were not, I guess, productive or contributing because of subsurface uncertainty. And that really spans across also the broader oil and gas industry. There is a lot of subsurface uncertainty that's now getting tapped, and really that risk is being reduced through advancements in sensory, and science and automation is mentioned. I think this is one area that we can continue to advance, particularly on the conventional geothermal. The second is kind of the area of EGS and AGS. You think about some of the existing technologies and applying them to AGS, technologies that we kind of have been using for many, many years to do well interception. When you have a well that blows out, now you need that same technology to intercept and create really a kind of a network, downhole network of well bores. That technology still has a lot of opportunity to advance in terms of efficiency and improve really the overall cost. But those are just a few examples. I even think about our ESPs. Historically, these are pumps that we run in the well. Now we're able to implement them at the surface to provide high volume for these geothermal wells. Applications that go back to just applying what we already have, technologies that have been advanced in oil and gas, and applying them into the geothermal, we still have a runway ahead of us. But the last part is really game-changing technologies. And these are available. The business cases, it's what are now struggling to compete with the general oil and gas. There's an opportunity, and there's line of sight on how to make geothermal more economical than where it is. And I think even competing to a higher degree with alternative and even oil and gas. But it requires, again, that investment in collaboration. Because right now, as an industry, we've gone through many cycles, and the focus continues to be really providing returns to our investors over the long term. And that requires, look, there's willingness to make bets and investment, but there's also a need for additional kind of partnerships to provide some more investment in that space.
Yeah, if I can add, you hit the nail on the head. I think not just the technology development, but collaboration on that technology development. I won't try and repeat, what the other speakers have said, but when we look at our technology agenda and what's new, it's really the same as everyone else to address those levers of cost, risk, and uncertainty, and doing that through collaboration in some cases. You mentioned ESPs, right? This whole premise of geothermal being baseload and renewable goes out the window if your ESP fails. In Europe, we have hundreds of installations for producing heat for the consumer. So reliability, as well as advancements in the technology itself, is a huge factor. And their collaboration can play a part. We collaborated with the German government to come up with more reliable ESPs for their market. Also on the game-changing technologies, what companies like us can help these startups to de-risk, what they're doing. An example I would give you, we made an investment in Green Fire Energy. We're launching next week a consortium, Wells to Watts, with customers and with technology providers. And the whole purpose of that was actually retrofitting the test well at our Energy Innovation Center so we can help de-risk new geothermal technology, not necessarily our own technology, but industry technology. So I think that's another area we can come to the table. There's all the incremental improvements in the oil and gas technologies we have. But one other area that I want to kind of highlight is not so much development of technology, but technology transfer across regions of the world. If you look at the geothermal business, with the very small exception of some really large multinational geothermal developers, the only companies that actually span the world in terms of geothermal are the service companies. And, I was just in Jakarta, where they're looking to the future and the development of low to medium enthalpy geothermal developments, with all the challenges that brings and pressure maintenance issues, challenges that have been at least addressed to some part in the US. So the service companies can help bring those solutions to these other regions of the world. So I think we play a big role also in the transfer of technology and solutions in the geothermal.
Yeah, I like that. I think about Pivot and the few years we've been through, that's something we bring to the table, is the ability. I think that is one of the really strong things we've observed as well, is all the way all the different projects seem to not connect in the same way. So I think that's really exciting. For us, the drill bit work, we're 400%, improvement just by drill bit design. So, that's a big deal, even though it's a simple thing. And so I think there's things we all know how to do really quickly in just focus. But I am excited by this, what we might be able to do with cold temp, managing to get some really cold fluids down into the well. So that's something that I think from a breakthrough that's highly valuable everywhere. I like the things that are transferable, because it means more business, which means we can continue on. But yeah, there's a long way to go with the ramp. Excited about startups, happy to work. I think all of us are happy to work with startups. We're probably not going to buy you, just in case you're wondering. That's not something we do, but we're happy to help. And so, that's something that we're working with a lot of different groups, is how can we help advance those technologies? Because I really think, we put investment into R&D in that space, and probably could talk about it now because it failed. So expensive lessons. But I think everyone pushing on this, what's possible in these things, because the margins are very thin, and that's the discipline that's hard for everybody, is working on that thin margin. Like, how do we expand it? Which is why the technology will matter, because it's reducing the cost base. If anything we can do to create more margin in the business, that's what makes it an attractive business. Whereas just survival type margins causes survival type behavior. And so I think that's really the work, is where can we all work with people to keep pushing that boundary to increase the margin potential, to make the costs look better. Now, you're competing in a renewable space with really thin margins everywhere. So I will say from a comparative standpoint, it is a much better technology, better application for us to be investing in for alternative energies. But I think the breakthroughs will come because our industry is so focused on that. And I think that's our value, is what can we do? I think working on the base load of how can we improve hard rock? How can we improve process? I think you guys are right. That's a huge thing we can bring to the table. And so continuing down that road, I think the big technology breakthroughs are probably going to come from the smaller companies, but the stuff we can put in for what we can do will actually open up that margin and create better business.
You know, this morning we saw a map of Texas, and it had the geothermal temperature gradients at 6 kilometers. There's another map of Texas that shows the direct normal irradiation of the sun, and it overlaps one of those areas out in West Texas and goes all the way to California. And so another aspect is that, as I mentioned before, you know, we've made investments in different companies, and there's specific technologies that you could bring to combine, for example, geothermal storage with solar power. And so you solve the intermittency issue of solar with a combination of those things. So having the ability or a structure to collaborate, I think is important. And, you know, where a service company and a drilling contractor like Nabors could come in is if you look around the planet, there's similar areas. And if a company wants to start up and do a project in the Middle East or West Texas or New Mexico or anywhere, that we have infrastructure, we have legal entities, we have technical support, operating support, rig support. And the other part is the people. You know, everywhere we go, we drill all over the world, we hire where we work. And so if you can imagine that same map with something overlaid like a coal plant complex that's going to be decommissioned so many years down the road, and then you can somehow figure out how to take that workforce, that is skilled workforce, and reskill and create technical opportunities on new projects and sustain that workforce instead of just shutting the plant down and firing everybody. So I think one aspect to accelerate and to scale and to have a lot more stakeholders is just looking at the blocking and tackling of how do you bring people together to collaborate, and also remove the barriers of starting up from scratch, you know, just provide something that you already have that has value.
All right, thank you. So unfortunately, we're not going to have time for questions. But if you do have questions, I would encourage you to come find these guys after the panel. So we have like a minute and a half left. So let's start here with David and go down the line. We'll go like 30 seconds. Give us your closing words of wisdom, and we'll end with Rami, and that'll be it.
I'm very excited about this area. I think we've got tons to do, and I think everyone pushing hard. We're going to actually make this happen for our industry and for energy at large. So very excited.
Yep. Thanks again to the panelists, Jamie, for inviting us. It's been a great conversation. Fantastic discussion, guys. I think there's tons of investment in technology, which we heard very clearly across this board, that will help lower cost and lower risk. I heard collaboration from pretty much every one of us. I think that's something we bring to the table. I think scale, Joey points out, we are in all of the places around the world to help deploy this technology and connect the dots and share the information to really make this thing move forward. So I'm very excited about the future potential of geothermal around the world.
You know, we're the ones that are going to solve the issues and create this business. And it's fantastic to be here with you guys and with all the expertise and background and experience. I mean, you know, we know the industry just placed a bit inside this little room right here from 50,000 feet away. And so I know we can create a geothermal business that satisfies all of the stakeholders, including the generators themselves and also the environment.
Well, I'm very optimistic about what the future holds for geothermal. I actually have to be, since my entire job is geothermal. but you know, like I would say, I see a future where we will have the capital that we need to drive this business. if we do our jobs right on reducing cost and risk, I think that will happen because I'm confident we will make it happen. We've done it so many times, in oil and gas. The one caveat I would have is that the regulatory side and the permitting side needs to keep up, because today in adjacent spaces like CCUS, where you see all the incentives, you see all the capital, there's a huge bottleneck on the regulatory side. And that would be my one caveat, that we all need to work together, not just on collaboration in terms of growing the industry, but also in terms of driving policy, right? So thank you.
Even though geothermal is not all of my business, small part, but I'm still very excited about it. I think we have a big opportunity ahead of us. We've solved different challenges in the past as an industry. Some extreme, some mediocre. And I think collectively, as you noticed, we feel there's a clear path to make geothermal more economic, more scalable, and untap the true potential of it. So I would end with, I'm very excited, and I would like to also again thank the audience for joining us in Halliburton. So thank you very much.